Hi everyone, this is Hanzala, and on this video we are taking a look into network policies. On this question, on the mock exam 2 question 1, it is telling us that a pod has been created in the Redis backend, and this has been created in this namespace, and it has been exposed as a service type cluster IP. So if we do get service, we should be able to see the service. You can see it over here, and it's telling us the port as well. What this question wants us to do is use a network policy, call this, and lock down access to this pod, this one, and only the following should apply, which is any pod in the same namespace with this label, and all pods in another namespace called this. So it should only allow incoming connections from these two options. One is the pods in the same namespace and pods in a different namespace. So to give you a better idea of how this will work, I will show you a quick diagram. Just get this open. And what I'll do is I'll pause the video, do this diagram, and then I'll show you. Okay, so we have this diagram that I've created. So in this box over here, we have the namespace that we want to create a network policy in, and this is going to be an ingress policy. This is going to select the pod, which is the Redis backend over here, which is what they have told us, and it's going to control the incoming connection to this pod. Now, it wants us to allow only the incoming connection from pods which will be created in this namespace. And it will look like this. And there's another pod in the default namespace, and that won't have any incoming connection to this. So if we get started on the question, let's first of all, let's switch to the namespace that we want to create the network policy in. So if we do tab, and then we type namespace, and that is going to be, and we do Kubernetes get pods. So we are in the same namespace, and then all we have to do now is create a network policy. So we'll use Vim, network policy YAML, we'll call it, and then we can minimize this diagram. If we go to network policy, open this up, and we just need to copy this. Oopsie. And once this is pasted, we can start deleting some of the things we don't need. So let's remove this, and we can remove the IP block. We don't need that. And we don't need egress. And let's start from the top. Okay, so this is going to be called allow redis access, and the namespace is going to be x12cs. And what is the next step? We need to now match this with the pod, but we don't know what the label is. So what we can do is Kubernetes kget pods show labels, and we can see the label for the pod over here. Paste that in over here. This is going to allow us to select the pod, and now we want to control the incoming connection, and we want to select the namespace, which is this one. And again, we need to know the label. So if we do get namespaces, and we do show label, and we need to find this one, and you could use either one of these. I'm going to select this one, and same thing here again, just paste it and remove the equals, put this there. So now this is giving us the this is going to select all pods from this namespace, and then what we want to check is how would we do it for the pod selector. So if you scroll down the documentation, if you're unsure about the namespace selector, there's more on this documentation page that will explain it further. So in this example here on the documentation, it gives us an idea by showing the namespace selector with the user Alex. So this will select this will select the namespace that has this label user Alice with and the pods with the role client matching label. So think of this as an and when there's no dash here, and think of this as an or statement. So it's saying basically any incoming connections from this namespace with user Alice or from the pod from any pod with the role and client in the namespace that the network policy was created in. And that is what we are doing over here, because we are creating this network policy in the same namespace, and we just need to give it this label. So what we need to do over here is just copy that label. And now we'll just have a double check. So we are creating this network policy in this namespace. Yeah, I mean in this namespace, and the name of it is this, and this is going to select the pod with this label, and it's going to control the incoming connection from any pod in this namespace selector with the port, or any pods in the same namespace with this label using the port 6379. So we can save this, and we can create this now, and you can do a describe to check, and it should say the same thing, which is to the port 6379 and from this namespace and from the pod selector, which is what we have selected. Okay, so that is done, and now that should complete the question. And you can, if we do, yeah, so if we do now an exam, this will complete the question.